Okay. So guys, you can unmute yourself and talk. So we can discuss for 2 minutes and we can go with the live demo. So what are you expecting in the current session? Like, have you already tried working on the solution? What exactly have you done? Waiting for you to talk. Hello, Aman. Hi, Manisha. Okay.
Hi.
So I think most of you have attended my previous session as well, right? I think many.
Hi Vajrang, myself Shankar. Actually, I didn't attend previous session of converting
Okay.
this. So I'm new to this session. So I wanted to learn something from how to convert any project into REFramework. So that is my motto to join this session.
Excellent.
Thank you, Vajrang.
Yeah, thank you, Shankar.
Hi, Vajrang.
Yes. Hi. Your
Nidhi
name,
this side.
please.
Nidhi.
Hi, Nidhi.
Yeah. After your previous session, I've also automated some another use cases by using REFramework.
Okay.
So yeah, it was the good session. Thanks for your help.
Okay. So what were the issues you were able to solve after the first session?
Actually, I didn't face much type of issues.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've automated easily after your first session.
Excellent. Great
Yeah.
to know.
Thank you.
Thanks for your feedback, and let's take some chat. Is the session started? Yes, Sharanraj, it started. And I have tried this RPA challenge, but not REFramework. So it's better if you can go with REFramework. Why am I doing REFramework specific webinars is whenever you go to some, if you are a fresher or if you are checking for into new jobs, or at least if you are into RPA, but you don't know completely how to program a project into REFramework, this is very important to understand what exactly REFramework is and how to make things in a project structure so that it can be understandable by everyone. So for the first, for the members who joined this as the first webinar of mine, so how many of you are aware of knowing or are aware of what is REFramework? You can use raise hand so that I can see. We can use our tools that are available for us. Okay, you can just type in a message. Okay, 3 members. Okay, let me come to the beginning. Then let me take some 2 minutes to explain you about REFramework. See, REFramework is not a different programming structure or anything. It's just a state machine that's already there in UiPath. Hi, Abhinav. So can you see my screen? I have shared my screen.
Yeah.
Yes, Vajrang, we can able to see.
Okay, so we have multiple ways how we can configure our projects. One of it is process. The second one is a flowchart. Transactional process is the third one where we can see, or else if we go into a new, there we can see sequence, flowchart, and state machine. Whereas REFramework is an advanced version or a structured version of a state machine. It's pre-built structure so that we can go ahead and we can take use of it, and we can develop all our code into that particular structure, nothing else. It's like a boilerplate code. Okay, coming to our automation use case today. So what exactly we need to do? See, we have this particular website where particular transactions are available or ID is available along with due date, and on every ID, we have an invoice that we need to see. The problem that we can understand or we can solve using this webinar is how can we use OCR, or how can we use extracting text scraping using image automation, as well as how to integrate this in the RE framework. And I would like to set the expectations clear so that we may not complete this process with 100% accuracy, because one of the reason might be it is due to image automation. Second thing is, I haven't tried this earlier, so this is the first time I'm doing it along with you. So if there are any issues, you can also guide me. And coming to the invoice samples, we have two samples. We can see them here. So this is one of the sample, and this is the second sample. So we have multiple things. And in this, if you go ahead and see this, what exactly? Okay, let's close this one and let me open this example. Okay, in the example, we can see what? ID, due date, invoice number, invoice date, company name, and total due date, total due amount. So if you go back to our structure, yeah, if someone is not talking, please go on mute. Okay, participants. Okay, let's mute everyone first. Okay, lower all the hands. Fine. Let's see where are we. We are checking with the example. Now in this example, ID and due date, we can get it from the website using web scraping. But what are the other details that we need to get from the OCR or from the image? Invoice number, invoice date, company name, and total due. So those are the details that we can get from here. Invoice number, invoice date, what is the balance due. For this particular structure, we can get the balance due here. But if you go to this particular image, you can get the total only from here, but not on the top. And we can get the name from here, like company name from here. So that's what we basically need to build with this solution. Okay, so you say me what are the things that need to be added in the states using REFramework. Anyone can come and explain what exactly can be taken up in the init state, what can be done in the process state. Stage is open.
Yes, Vajrang in init stage.
Okay,
We
your
close,
name please?
Yeah, Shankar.
Yeah, Shankar, say.
Yeah, in init stage, we can close the whatever the existing, suppose Internet Explorer or Excel or something. We are closing the existing applications. Coming to the get transaction date, we are giving the input to the get transaction date. In process state, we are doing the process as per the queue item stored in the get transactions. If it is any exception from the business, it will redirect it to the get transaction. If it is application error, it will go to the again init stage.
Okay. So whatever you have said is correct. One thing is in killing all the process, do it in kill process state, or that we can see. But here is our basic REFramework structure, which we can go ahead and minimize. So I'm trying to make this a mobile viewable. So most of my text will be in bigger size. Please bear with me. And here we have initiation stage. So as we discussed, we need to first open the browser and extract all the details. And in get transaction state, we need to extract one row at a time, and we need to send it to process transaction state, where we extract or scrape the data. And after completing all the items, see, once we complete process transaction state, if it is a success, it means that, okay, I have completed this particular transaction, I need to go to the next item. So it will go back to get transaction state. So can anyone say me what is the difference between business exception and a system exception?
Yeah, Vajrang, this is Aman. So business rule exception, like for example, if I have account number. So for example, if I have 16-digit account number, but
Okay.
I have to validate every time 16 digits. But suddenly,
Okay.
some alphanumeric or 12-digit argument. So at that time I can throw business rule exception. So because it is not
Excellent.
a
Yeah.
So comes to system exception. Suppose for example I have mentioned some path, but that path is not there. Like
Okay.
I have not created in my system, so that will automatically throw some system exception.
Okay, so one more way I can explain about whatever you have said is correct. Thank you so much for that. But business rule exception are like a custom exceptions that as a business owner or a developer you need to raise. Okay, as Aman has said, let's say that we are expecting a 12-digit number, but we are all of a sudden we are getting some alphanumeric characters or more than 12 or less than 12 characters. So that's the time when we are raising some exceptions stating that okay, we have all the resources, but the resources doesn't play any issue, but the issue is with the data. So that point of a time we will raise an exception. System exception, let's assume that we need to raise or we need to work on this particular application. Now let's assume that when I'm scraping the data, the Internet Explorer itself crashed, or we are unable to open the Internet Explorer or any kind of application. Then we will not be able to further continue for the next steps, and that is not a part of business rule exception. According to business, every exception or every step should be validly performed. That's what the requirement of a business is. But if we don't have Internet Explorer, where we are scraping from, then again that will be a system exception, or any kind of application exception can be treated as a system exception. Okay, so in this particular things, what will be the first step that we can do? Anyone can answer.
First, we need to open this RPA challenge site and scrape whatever like ID and due date and download this attachment for each of the transactions.
So you mean to say that we need to download each and every attachment, then we need to see how it's coming. Yeah, that's one of the solution. What can be the other solution? Can you see that when we are clicking on this particular item, it's directly opening into a tab? Can't we use it directly rather than downloading?
Yes, we can.
Okay, see, when we are discussing things,
these two, but due date also we need to take, no? Due date and ID, these two things which are in the table.
So I'm asking about downloading the image. I'm asking only about downloading the image. Okay, so when we are working on a process, okay, thank you so much. So when we are working on a process specifically, there is no right or wrong until the business requirement is fulfilled. If we are able to do it in a proper manner, there is no right or wrong. We can download the invoice, or we can directly click on this particular invoice and we can read the invoice. So that is one possibility, and this is one more way of possibility. But due to time constraint, let's say that I am ignoring the way of downloading the invoices. I just want to click on one particular item and I need to go in, check with this particular image and extract the data. That's all I want to do. Okay. And
Vajrang, sorry, one question here. Suppose if that URL is dynamic,
okay,
so we'll be stuck, no? So it's better to download, right? If you want to use the if you want to achieve the reusable thing, it's better to download and use it, right?
So we should also see the structure. Okay, when you're saying this is dynamic, now when I refresh,
I'm just saying in such cases it can be dynamic also. So in that case, if you're always using all the reusable methods like downloading and then using it, then it will be like correct use case, no? So we can reuse it anywhere in the future also. Suppose in future, if you are doing the same things, executing the same thing, at the time if that URL is changed by dynamic, then it will fail, right? So
totally
it's better to yes.
Agreed to your use case. Okay, so what Aman, right? Who spoke just now?
Saran Raj.
Yeah, Charan. So what Sharath is saying is we can download this. Though it's opening like this, we can directly save a picture as, and we can store it in a local machine, and we can use it. Okay, Sharath, now let's assume that we are using Orchestrator in our RE framework. I'm not going with data table now. What will be the best scenario?
Sorry, can you come again?
Okay, let's say that you are saying that we need to download it in one particular space, and we need to extract the data from that particular space. Now I am assuming that I'm not using a data table here. Okay, though I scrape the data, I will send all the data to one orchestrator.
Okay, so you need to add queue, right? Add queue and then you need to send, right?
Okay, what are the details that can be added into a queue?
All the processing data will be added in the queue.
All the processing data.
Processing data, yeah. Like if we are extracting something from the Excel, so that data will also be there in the queue. So we'll directly extract from get transaction status from queue and
okay. Yes, that's also correct. So whatever we are saying, let's say that in this particular URLs or in this particular data, we can add ID, due date, along with that the image path. Along with that, the image path can also be added to Orchestrator. Is that correct? Can we say like that?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I can do right now is, instead of saving a particular image into my local machine, every image will have a particular URL which is specific, right? And if you see at the bottom, this first one is with URL 5.jpg. Okay, the second one is with the URL 11.jpg, and the third one is with the URL 1.jpg. Though if I refresh, the data might be changed, the URLs for these images will not change. Am I correct? With this particular use case I'm talking about. Correct.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do few things. First thing is, as we have discussed, first we need to initialize a application or initialize or start this application. So whenever we create some project, it's better to structure it in such a way that all application related workflows are in one particular folder. Let's say that this is for RPA challenge. So I will write RPA. So this is my folder. And in this folder, whatever flows I create with regarding to this particular URL, I'll create only in this particular folder. So this is again the best practice how we can do it. Okay, extract table data, a generic name for it. But the best use case or the best practice is, when we are naming it, name it with the prefix of the folder, rename. So I can just RPA. Let's say that in future, maybe we will be using some Chrome. So all Chrome related app flows will be in one folder. And if we are using Internet Explorer, all Internet Explorer related applications will be in, or flows will be in one folder. Now in this particular scraping, see, there can be two ways where we can scrape. The first one is directly clicking on this, and we can extract the complete table and we can get the values. But here there is an issue in getting the URL. So can anyone say me how we can extract this URL?
Can you please come again?
Okay, now when we extracted this table, if you see in the invoice, there is a icon. Okay, now there is no value or no URL in here. Now how can we extract those URLs as well?
So
anyway,
what I don't know whether it will be best practice, just a suggestion. What I will do, so we will directly skip in this way. So we will have all this in data table, and in our invoice column, all is blank. So what we need in invoice column is the URL which will directly get us to the that image. So what we'll do, we will take another flow or another flow. In that we will use get attribute or something to get means URL from this and then add into a data table.
Okay. So any other answers? Thank you so much.
Yeah, Vajrang.
And yeah.
We can use find children, and
Okay.
as earlier said, like get attribute inside that we can give URL. So we
Okay.
can use add data row. We can add it into the same data table.
Okay. And any other answers? Okay. If not, whatever you have said is correct. But in this particular use case, I found something else, or which you can also use. Let's say that we did not extract the complete table. What exactly can we do? Can't we extract each item like this structured table? So here I can get ID. Next. So we got all the IDs, extract correlated data. This is due date. Okay. Next. And in the same way, extract correlated data and let's map this particular link. Let's see what we'll get. So here, I don't have any text here, but I have a URL. Let's check what we'll get. So we got all the URLs here. So I think this is one of the best use cases where you can directly do it instead of finding a children or instead of creating a workflow. So how many of you agree with this current solution? I'm saying again, whatever details or whatever solutions I'm going to show you, it is with respect to my perspective, maybe that can be there can be a best use case that you can come up with future. But in this particular use case, if we can directly extract the URLs like this, then this can be the best use case. Okay, and let's finish this and let's span it to the next pages. Okay. Now, when we are working with the extracted data table, here is something that you will face. Every activity, so extract data table will work in such a way that it will extract one page and it will click on the next item. And when the next item fails, then it will say that, okay, the last item is completed and we can close this extraction of data table. So that is the reason we will have continue on error as true for this particular item or for this particular activity. And along with that, if you see, every activity will have minimum timeout as 30 seconds. But if we keep this as empty, this will be 30 seconds. So what will happen is on every extraction, let's say that I have extracted 100 items. So after 100 items, I will still need to wait for 30 seconds. So instead of that, what I can do is I can wait only for 3000, which is 3 seconds. Okay, this is again a customization that I am making so that the extraction is much faster. Okay, here we can do two things. Either we can write this particular item into a, so in this use case, again, we will be using our queues. So we will be seeing how queues work and how are we adding transactions. And also we'll see what is the difference between add transaction item and add a queue item. So do you know what is the difference between add transaction item and a queue item? If anyone can come ahead and say, then it's great.
So add queue item will add the data into the queues, and the state will be in new state only.
Okay.
But add transaction item will directly put the item into in progress, and it's again the task will get started into it.
Excellent, great answer. But so how many of you are still unaware or unable to understand how to use add transaction item and add queue item? Please raise your hand so that I can explain again. Okay, Padur raised a hand. Okay, so even one, let's go ahead and talk about it. So there are two items or two activities: add transaction item and add a queue item. Okay, so the two persons have raised their hands. Okay, so I'm explaining here. So add transaction item, again, as our friend said, will go into the transaction item or will go into this particular queue. Let's say that RPA challenge, if you have, I will open just my existing transactions. See, there will be different states in which a transaction will be added. Now, when we add it in the first stage, it will be in new. It will be in a state of new. But when we change or when we take the transaction from the orchestrator, it will be in progress state. When we complete it, it will be in success state. When it is failed, it will be in failed state. But this is an important interview question again. What if we take what if we take a queue item and we did not set its transaction? When we take, we will also need to set a transaction. Can anyone answer how what will be the state in which the queue item will be there when we did not set any transaction status for it?
It will be in new state.
So we already took a transaction, but we did not set its state. So at that point of time, what it will be in?
In progress.
In progress.
So in progress, okay, the process is completed. Now, how much time a transaction item will be in progress state?
Until the transaction
Until
is
the
completed.
transaction is complete.
How can you say that the transaction is complete?
Suppose
when transaction is
okay, one person at a time, please.
The status will get changed to completed.
When the transaction is completed, it will give the successful message, and if failed, then it will be failed. It will give the fail message over there. And
okay.
One more state is there, abundant.
Your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking. Sorry. Can you?
One more state is there, abandoned.
Yeah. So who answer? Yes.
Yeah, so it will be in progress state for if you do not set a transaction for that particular item, it will be in progress for 12 hours, and after that it will because we have nothing is happening and it's still in progress, it will get to abundance state.
Excellent. So for after every transaction or if after every transaction is completed, so what exactly do we need to do is we need to set a transaction status, and in this set transaction status we will have either failed or succeeded. Okay, so if we don't set anything or if we remove this particular state or activity and if we just use get transaction item, then what will happen is it will go into abandoned state. Thank you so much, Shankar, right? Thank you so much for answering. So in this, let's go ahead and do few changes. So all we got here is I extracted it transaction items. So what for our demo purpose, what we can do is we can use right range. Okay, again, this session will be close to 2 hours. So please bear with me, or else if we want, we can split it actually. After half an hour, we'll take a poll and we'll see if we can split it or if we can continue. Okay.
No, Vajrang, we will continue.
Okay, thank you so much. XLSX, and let's take it as extracted data table. So what exactly I'm doing here? I'm doing nothing, just I'm taking the values and I'm writing it in one place. So let's go ahead and debug this solution and let's see. So it went into third page. Now it should wait for 3 seconds and it should complete. Obviously we will get a completed item, and here we'll have RPA challenge. Okay, this one automation, and this is the data folder. Okay, now if you see here, we have all the rows and all the values. Along with that, we can go ahead and navigate to each and every URL so that we can get the data from here, and also we have the ID. So what exactly I can do from here is, so I missed out right add headers. So if I can add it, then it will be good. Now in initiation stage, first thing is adding a config. So let's go back and go into config. Here we can say what is the automation URL. So automation URL. So this is the URL that we are working on right now. I can take it as this one. Okay. Next, it's better when you're working on a live projects, it's better if you can write the description as well. Not the specific description, but a proper description would be necessary. Now let's see how we can open that. First, we need to open the data and extract the data, and that extraction should not be done every time, right? So what is the first one will do is it will check if the config, and since when we start our project, the config will be empty. Now, since it is empty, what this can do is this will run only once. Now here I can add this particular activity or this particular workflow here. So when we are running the workflow, it will only run once and it will extract all the values and it will fetch or keep it at one place. Let's see what exactly this can give out. So whatever transaction data that comes here, can we take it as transaction data or can we take it as the data that we work on? Okay, you can talk.
Yes, we can take that.
Okay. So here again, see, I'm not going deep into the in and out arguments because due to limited time, and also these are advanced concepts which you can learn. So here this is a out argument and this should be of data type data table. So whatever data comes here, okay, we'll take the data and we will use the data. But since the flow is not here, it's somewhere else, we are sending it out and we are using it as out argument. And here what we can do is we can assign, and here we can write it as out transaction data, and here it is extract data table. Okay, let's go ahead and go to main. Here what we can get the transaction data, and here if we see what are the variables we have transaction data as data table which matches. I don't want to change anything, and transaction item is a queue which I will keep it because we are going to use orchestrator here and we'll also be using queues here. So let's add the transaction data. In the previous webinar which we have seen, we have converted all the transaction items into data row because we are not using our queues or transaction items over there, but here we are using our queues. So let's give out transaction data here. So transaction data will be the complete data which we can use. And if you see here, the transaction number, since it will be starting from 0, index will be starting from 0, we need to change this transaction number so that from 0th index we will start, we'll increment it one by one and we will process each item. Okay, let's go ahead into initiation stage. So what else can we add it in the initiation stage? So all we are doing here is extracting all the settings, which is a config, or we are reading the config values. Now here we have a queue name, and this we can use when we are sending a orchestrator queue name into the process. For now, let's leave it. This can be ignored. Now here we have kill all process. So what are the different processes that we need to kill? For this particular workflow?
Excel and Internet Explorer.
Yes. So the process name for Internet Explorer is iExplore. Again, this can be written in config so that only one kill process can be written and we can loop in it. But in the interest of time, let's go ahead and kill Excel as well here. So what happens exactly when we just debug this process? You can see that both Internet Explorer and Excel will be killed. Okay, but when we are running this in a production environment, we should not kill the complete process because there can be some other users who are, or some other robots who are using that particular application. So there you need to use a specific user-based kill. But for now, let's continue. Here we'll see what exactly is happening. Here we extracted all the values, but before extracting the values, I think we need to first open. If you see here, there is something called attach browser, but there is nowhere we are mentioning to open a browser first. So what initially we can do is in this we can keep open browser, or the best practice is to open a web application on our own. RPA open application, which is our particular URL. In this, we can add open browser. In this open browser, let's go ahead and check with Internet Explorer. Okay, this will be Internet Explorer, and RPA challenge we need to access. RPA challenge. Or else, what else can we do? See, every time I should not check with this. So since I have already added to a config and that config is available for me, I can use the key value here. Okay, we can see the config from here. Okay, let's bring up this config and view. Okay, let's add a URL, and this is the URL that I would like to add up here in this. So I can directly use this URL in our workflow. This can be like this. Here we can import our URL to open. Or else if you want to write some specific values, you can write it, but I'm using it as a generic name. URL to open, whatever URL opens, it will be opened. And here in this particular workflow, I'm adding add open application so that first the application opens and then we will extract the data. Here we can say config of the key name URL.toString. Okay, now we added the application, so the browser will be open first and then the extracted data table will be available. So what exactly need to be done in init all applications? See, every time there can be different ways how we do this. We can close, since we extracted everything here, we need not use it. Maybe different applications, one application is used only for extracting data and the different application use it to only add the data. Now the extraction need to be done only once. Since the extraction is already completed here, we can write a workflow to close this. But since we are using this already, what exactly I can do here is I can use either open application scope, but what this open application will do is it will create a new browser tab again. So if you see here, this will be URL to open again. Even though it is opened, it will create a new application. So the best practice that we can do is log out, or let's add a sequence RPA underscore close application. So what exactly this is used to do is close a particular browser, indicate on screen. Let's indicate this one. And if you see here in this, we have automation challenge OCR. And in this, we can add a tab called, add a activity called close browser or close tab. So this will attach this browser first and this will close. Okay, let's go and fetch the values. Okay, and let's close this, or okay, close. Let's keep this open, and okay, let's try with this particular use case or this particular workflow. All it need to do is it need to attach one particular tab and it need to close. So the Internet Explorer is closed now. In the main, after extracting the data, what I can do is I can go ahead and okay, now why do we need to open it and why do we need to close it every time? Everyone can answer. Did everyone understood why I'm doing this, or are there any questions? That's my question.
Sorry, I didn't understand why you are closing here.
Okay, and any more who didn't understand? Okay, so here we are using the first run. So what first run will exactly do? It will run only once. Okay, now let's assume that in this particular Internet Explorer, we are using RPA challenge to extract the data. Now the data need to be added into a Google form. The extraction of data is completed and we don't use application anywhere else. So do we need to still keep it?
No.
Okay, you can answer faster. Okay. And since we don't use it anywhere else when we are using different applications, we can close it. But we are also using init all applications. See, in this particular workflow or in this particular use case, whenever there is an exception, this will go to initiation stage. Right. Now let's assume that there is a application exception and Internet Explorer is unable to open our tab. Now, what if we go ahead and try to attach the same browser? Will it work?
No.
It will not work. So that's the reason, though we close it in the first run, we will try to open it, or this is where initiation of all applications happen. Whenever there is an exception set, we have system exception, it will come back to initiation state and it will check for this config or system exception. It will ascend to nothing and it will check with this config. The config values, we already have them in the config dictionary and it will not run the first run, but we should have that Internet Explorer to run for the next transactions. So anyhow, we need to open those in this application scope. So it's better if we want to open it again, it's better to close it before. So did I answer your question or we still need to understand?
Yeah, got it, man. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and do string. Fine. We are adding the applications here. Now, till what part of our flow is completed? See, we extracted the data and we opened it. Let's try to run our flow and let's check what exactly is happening till now.
We need to add a, I think.
Yeah, go ahead and talk.
Invoice URL, Vajrang is not full URL. No?
Exactly. It's not a full URL. That's correct.
So in state it will not get opened. You need to substring add a initial part of it.
Okay, so opening of a particular URL, we'll be doing that in a process state. Okay, or let's say that we already opened this particular web page. Now, if we want to open this particular URL, RPA challenge /invoices/JPG, the best thing that we can do here is see what happened till now. Is it opened, it extracted data, it finished due to no more transaction data because we didn't add any transaction data here, or we didn't process any transaction data here. But if you go and check with this particular data folder, the extraction is completed. Okay, we completed till the extraction is completed, but in the URL, we can see that, as you have said, the invoice URLs are static, or they are only dynamic values, but the static URL that need to be assigned is not added. Now let's add that to our queues. So how can we do that? What is the best place to add our transaction items to queue?
In get transaction data, add queue items. So in what we call in add queue items, there is some option in properties. So there we can assign the values what we want to add.
Okay, so here we can do it in multiple ways. Okay, first thing we can add. Okay, again, this is not the best practice to do, but let's see how we can do that. Here in this add queue items, so I am already connected to my orchestrator. So if you see here in the orchestrator resources, we will have, I think the process name is yet to be taken, but along with the process ABCQ, we have RPA challenge. Okay, now since it is already added, what we can do here is in the properties of this add queue item, see there is information which is a in-out or a value that we can add, or we can directly add a JSON string or a dictionary, which we can use it and convert. But there is also a option called bulk add queue items. Okay, what bulk add queue items will do is it will add all the table into a particular data table. So here, let's try to add it. And let's see, extracted data table is what we are trying to add. And the queue name, the best place where we can add a queue name is in the config again. In the config, there is a queue name property. Instead of ABC queue, we can add RPA challenge queue. Now here in UiPath, we can go ahead and add a queue name here. So this is just for a demo purpose, like how can we add our bulk item to a queue. And here, let's see what is the result. And the result will be a data table, which will be coming out again. And let's, instead of writing here our range, what we'll do is we'll take our values and we will add here. Okay, we can copy this and we can go ahead and paste it. So I am just commenting out here so that I can use it later, but here we'll use only the result. Whatever values are added into the queue will be shown up here. Let's see how that works for us. We already have this particular URL, and let's try to debug. And let's see our queues. We have 0 items in our data. Okay, I think it is completed. Let's see what data do we have here. Do we have anything? View transactions. Okay, let me write or debug only this workflow. Error in validation required for queue name is not supplied. So what is the queue name that we didn't supply?
Actually, that add queue item activity we did not comment.
Okay, so there is a bulk data queue item, so we can delete this one. Okay, let's try to do this again. Extracting the structured data table from our website. Okay. Now, if we have few data, we can do this. What we can see is view details. See, we have ID, due date, and the URL. So this is what all we require. Other than this, nothing else to work on any activity or to work on our process. But is this the correct way to do this here? Come on, go ahead and answer.
Vajrang, no, that's not the correct way.
Okay, so what can be the correct way?
We will use for each row activity, and because we need to add that static string URL before the invoice URL. So
okay.
We will add that for each of the row items, and then
Okay.
we will use add queue item activity, and then that will be a better way, I think.
Okay, so when you're saying we need to add the static value always, why can't we directly add it in the process state? Why can't we directly take the dynamic value and while navigating, just add the value and navigate? Can't that be a also be a solution?
Yeah, that will be also. That's a better way, right? Correct.
Right, because we need not make any changes here. Okay,
Yeah.
and adding a bulk item, I suggest that don't add it here. If you want to add any bulk items, and again, bulk items, don't add lakhs of records at one bulk item. Maybe 100 records at once can be a good option. But if you're having more than 100 or more than 1000 records, don't do that. So what we can exactly do here is, see, in this particular item, we are not getting, or what we can say is, see here in this transaction data, if you see in this close application scope, here if we can add about bulk items, what exactly do we need to pass in the values here? Extracted data table. This is not extracted data table. This is a transaction data now. all the transaction data will be taken. And if you see commit type here, process independently will, let's say that if we have 100 rows and in that 100 rows 10 rows were success, remaining rows were failure. So in that condition it will not add anything if it is all or nothing. But if we select process all independently, then whatever data can be added into the queue, they will be added, remaining items will be exempted. So that's how it will work. And let's go back and see what are the details that we added up here. So again, what you have said is correct, like adding a for loop, but we already have bulk add data queue items, so we can use it right away. And here in this item, what exceptions do we have? The result, we can or cannot take it, but if we want to know what are the data that we got or which is added, then we need to add it our transaction data. So whatever data I'm sending, I'm checking with the queue items. If everything is added, give me back the transaction data. That's what I'm saying here exactly. Now here we already added the values. Do we need to add it again? I don't think so. But how can we say that this particular row once added need not be added again? So when we added two queue items, see, this is where the complexity of the webinar gets increased, because we are discussing many things here. If you select this unique reference as yes, whenever there is a unique item, then it will be added. When we don't have a unique item, it will throw an exception. That's how this unique reference will work. But for now, let's go ahead and see how this works with our workflow. There are no rights and wrongs, or I'm not targeting to complete the workflow or this automation challenge. I'm targeting to complete that into an REFramework solution. So let's go ahead and see how we can proceed further. Here in open application, what are we trying to do? We are trying to add these values or open this particular application. And in this particular main workflow, we are closing this. Now in add bulk items, see, most of the items or most of the properties that we add should not be static. So what we can do is we can check it from the config. In config of, we have config orchestrator queue name. So this is what we need to target. Let's add the config value from config sheet. So orchestrator queue name is what we require in the config values. Okay, dot toString. Okay, we added all the items. So whenever we take something into production, see that nothing is in static, or don't hard code any items. Okay, we have a message. You can just start. Okay, I have one question. Please let me know when we can discuss this. You can directly type in over the chat. If we can discuss that, we will, or else we'll take it up later in my WhatsApp. Okay, here in get transaction data, let's see what exactly is happening. Open workflow. Here again, in get transaction item, we need to pass in, or we need to send the queue item, queue name. So if we send it, then we'll have one queue item at a time. What is it exactly mean? Let's say that out of all these transactions, we need to process one at a time. So when we use get transaction item, we'll get only the first item. Okay, or if we are setting the priorities, we'll get the highest priority item using get transaction item. Now, if you see here in other options, transaction item is not nothing. It means that we got some value from this and we can continue further. So this is where we are not changing anything. If you see in our previous webinar, what we did is we changed many things. Like we changed the transaction item, we changed the transaction arguments, we changed, and different types of arguments we assigned. But here in this particular use case, nothing, we are changing nothing. We are using the workflow as is, or the template as is. Let's go to the main. And for this particular scenario, in this particular framework, let's see, in transaction item is the queue item, which we are getting it. And there is no need to change anything in this. Let's go ahead and see. Here is what we need to check. Now in this particular workflow, what do we need to add? Or let's see. Okay, can anyone answer what do we need to do exactly in the process state? So till now, what
each and every QI transaction item, transaction item.
Okay,
all
so
all the exceptions are also handled in process state, right?
Okay, so you're saying with in generic way, but with respect to our current use case, what exactly need to be done in our process state? So in the init state, what we did, we opened, extracted data, closed. Init all applications, we opened the website. Now here in the process, what do we need to do?
You need to process, extract the data, right? From image.
Okay, we need to extract the data from the image. So that is our main motto.
Yes. First of all, we need to get the data from the queue.
We already get it. We already got it from get transaction item. Okay. Okay. So here in the process, we can access the data. So there is no need to get the transaction item again. Okay. So any other questions or any other issues?
Can you just show us once where exactly we are getting the queue in the get transaction? Can you show us once again?
Okay. So here in the get transaction data, there is a get transaction item activity. So here, what are we sending? We are sending the queue name from where we need to get the transaction items. Okay, if we need to send an orchestrator folder path, we can send it. But for now, it's not required because my orchestrator is already added to my robot. And here in out transaction, in this transaction item, see here, out transaction item is one queue item that we are going to get. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Now here again, if you see some properties, here we have filter strategy. And if we need to have some filter strategy, like it should start from ABC or it should start from BCA, then we can do that as well. But let's continue. Let's not make it too complex to not understand. Here, what we can exactly do is we need to open a particular URL to extract the data. That's all we need to do. So let's see how we can. Yes, you're saying
here
something.
We need to use, here we need to use OCR activities, no, to extract the image data.
Correct. But before using OCR activities, shouldn't we open the image first?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So what exactly we can do is here we can use open browser. Okay, in this open browser, see how can we get the values from a transaction item? Earlier we were talking about the dynamic URL, how to make it values. Since it is only the dynamic value, how can we add the static URL to it? Let's see how we can do. Here in this, let's create a variable called str image or transaction URL. Okay, this is again a string that we are creating just now. Now in this particular value, we already have a base URL. For example, in this particular config value, this is the URL we already have. So all we need to do is in config of URL, which we are taking up from here. Okay, that we need to concatenate dot toString that we need to add up to our transaction item. That will be in transaction item. So in transaction item of, so how can we get the values from a queue or a transaction item? There is something called specific data, specific content. In this specific content, we can add the key value. So what is the key value here? Let's say that in this particular details, this is the URL which we need to take. In this, so what we can do here, go to properties and let's add the URL here. So we are adding the base URL. Along with that, we are also adding the dynamic URL dot toString. So let's see what values do we get here. Specific content, I think I didn't add the value dot toString. I think this should be fine. Click on OK. Now here we got the URL constructed. Now we can just pass in str URL here to just open the image. Let's see if we are able to open it at least.
One question.
Yes, please go ahead and ask.
In the init state, we already opened. If we can go to init state, we already opened like this site, right?
Correct.
So why can't we use navigate to? Why we are again opening this?
Of course we can use. Of course we can use navigate to, and also we can use open. That's fine. So okay, as you have said it, and it's the better option to do it. Let's go ahead and change or use attach browser. Attach browser. In this attach browser, let's add this particular browser, and in this let's add navigate to. In this navigate to, what all we need to do? We need to just pass in the URL, nothing else. Okay. So earlier, what will happen is every time a new tab will be opened. Now what will happen is every time we open a browser, it will use the existing browser, and it will just you add a URL so that the current browser will be up with a new URL. That's it. Okay. So did you understand the difference between open URL and navigate to? Let's start and see. We have one question. We'll take it after extracting the values. Okay. I hope and I think that we will be adding 12 more rows in our transaction items or in our queue items. Do we have a breakpoint? Okay, right range object reference not set to instance of an object. So let's go to the focus. So if there is any error, we can directly go into the focus and see, okay, what issues do we have? Can you please tell a difference between navigate and open once again? See, navigate, what exactly it will do is it will, let's say that this is the browser URL. If I need to just go ahead and open this particular URL, I can just go ahead and type in invoices 1.jpg. So every time I navigate, only this URL will be updated. Okay, this URL, existing URL will be updated with the new URL. But what happens when you open a new browser or new activity? What this new browser will be opened and it will be navigated to a new URL. So did I answer your question?
Can you show me the workflow of this again?
Which workflow?
Navigate URL. Navigate URL.
Okay, navigate URL is same. Let's see. Open application. Okay, so here we are having that in process state. Yeah, this is what we are checking with the existing attached browser. So we are taking the existing browser. Okay, and we are just navigating it to a particular URL. That's nothing else. And here we'll have, yes.
Simply it will append to our existing URL, right?
It will not append. It will just, it will be like a or add URL to that particular browser. Okay. Just retyping into that particular tab.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go ahead with.
And where you are that where you are retyping slash invoices.
So
again,
that we have extracted here, right? We have created a URL, complete URL here, okay, with config and as well as from the transaction URL.
Okay.
The complete URL will be built here, and we are sending the complete URL to open. Okay, in this extract data table, I think there is an issue here. Let's go ahead and delete this, or what we can exactly do is we can change this to extract data table so that the whatever data that's extracted, we will be writing it. Let's go ahead and debug once again. So if you're feeling that this is too fast, let me know. Okay, see here, we navigated first to a particular URL and extracted all the values. Now we need to add all the values to queue. Now in this, okay, see here, this is where we need to attach a browser. Okay, see on the top in the URL, for every transaction item, the value will be incremented or the new URL will be typed in. So here we'll have an issue. Let's see what is the issue. If there is an exception, this will restart. Will also wait for the exception to happen if there is any exception. Okay, it should wait for 30 seconds. That's all it should wait, no more, nothing more. But if there is any exception, let's also see what will happen. So any idea of what will happen if there is an exception, why it is unable to navigate to the next item, and what could be the exception, and what will happen if there is an exception, what exception it will be? Go ahead and answer.
Might be Internet Explorer.
Exception is
okay, guys. If you're talking, just say your name and then continue.
Yeah, Vajrang Shankar this side. Might be Internet Explorer closed or some maybe killed someone.
Okay, but
So
the Internet Explorer is open here. Any other questions? Any other answers?
Yeah, Vajrang, this is Aman. Attached browser selector issue actually we are facing.
Okay.
So we have to give in dynamic live selector.
Okay, so what will be the exception that will be triggered here?
System exception, it will go for init state, and again it will start from it will launch the browser, but it won't read the config file again.
Okay, excellent. So let's stop the workflow here. Since we debugged the solution, it actually stopped in this particular place, and here we have an issue. Let's check with the edit selector. Okay, let's repair it and just assign it so that, okay, here we will have this particular item. Let's see what value does it have. Okay, we have a message. We have to make a dynamic URL. We already made a dynamic URL. That's the reason it actually navigated in the first. So here, what do we have? So here, if you see, okay, and let's see the values. If you see here, we have the URL. Let's save the URL. Okay, and let's add this URL a dynamic value. What we can do is, okay, here we can do it in multiple ways, but let's see the best possible way to do it. Let's validate this again. Okay, so how to make this particular URL dynamic? Like we already added a URL dynamic, right? Like this URL, we built it dynamically. So what is one more way to do it?
We can create variable, no, for that.
Okay,
invoices.
we already have a URL. So what exactly we can do is, we can use the same URL here. Transaction URL. Okay, now when we use the same transaction URL, this particular website will first navigate, but again we'll have an issue. It will first attach the browser, then it will navigate. So if we add the current URL, then there will be a problem, like we are checking for invoice number 1, but there will be a invoice 2 that's already there. So the best way to do it is go ahead and change this particular item to, okay, repair element. Okay, this is what we have. Let's open it in URL, attach the URL here. Here we'll have the values. Okay, save, and let's add a star here. So we are using while characters. Basically, anything after the star will be taken as while character, and it will first match all this. If it matches, it will continue. Anyone don't know about while characters? What will happen if we assign IDX as X? So IDX is something, it will be like a dynamic, it will be like a index value. Let's say that we have 10 different Internet Explorers, and we don't know where the current URL is. So better not to use IDX every time. And if you ask me, I too will remove this particular IDX value. It is not preferable to use IDX. IDX can be used when there is a specific structure, like in this particular website, this image will be of IDX1 in this particular website. So this will be static. Every time it will be only 1. But using that in the URL or in this attached browser is not the correct way to do it. Okay, let's. Okay, any questions?
Abhinav,
Yeah,
so I understood that part we are using wildcard and making it dynamic, so that
okay.
there's no issue.
Okay.
Plus, I first when we were using that URL into creating dynamic selector.
Okay.
So one way is like using that substring, making and what you use was like braces open, two braces open, then you wrote. How that is done? If you can show that again, I missed that part.
Just a second. Okay, I didn't understand your question first, but see what's happening now is we attach a browser and the URLs are changing dynamically. Whatever the URLs we have in the transaction item, it will be fetched. And also let's see what will be the values in the transaction item status. Okay, so Aman, you're saying something. What is it?
No, Vajrang, I'm not saying anything.
Okay,
I
someone
think,
asked you a question. So what is the question again?
Abhinav here. So
Yeah, Abhinav.
earlier what you did, you created a dynamic selector of giving the URL itself in the selector.
Correct.
Okay. So what I know is like what we do, make a substring means plus plus then add. But what you did was double braces open and then you wrote the name. So how it is
Correct.
done? If you can showcase that again. Actually, I
Okay,
missed that part.
so fine. So here this works like this, attaching a dynamic URLs. So earlier when we are using to concatenate, we will not be able to, in earlier conditions, we are unable to target some particular applications. Let's see in the process state. In this attached browser, this is where you're saying, right? This is where I added.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's see in this particular case, I added, okay, and this one, and okay, so this is the transaction URL. Now, let's say that we add this particular item. So what will happen if we use validate here? Okay, see, we are unable to validate anything here, right? Now let's check with this one. Copy this particular item. Now here we already added the value here. Now let's add the variable value here. Okay, so what this exactly became? This is again a dynamic selector here. So instead of adding the values, let's see how this happens now. Okay, and here what do we have? RPA challenge. Let's take this value, or let's use this one. Okay, and let's add this value, and let's add this particular string here. Okay, so this is what we are trying to match. Okay, now when we change or when we use earlier a string concatenation, we will not be able, we were unable to validate that particular URL. We understood that, okay, we are able to fetch the values, or why can't I just show you how to do that? Okay, so this is what we used to have earlier. Now, how you used to add some value. This is let's assign some value. Assign this particular item, and here a dynamic value. And in this value, let's add a dynamic value like invoice 4. Okay, now when we are using this invoice 4 in this value, so this particular item is dynamic. So Abhinav, what you are exactly saying is when we are already using this, and if we can just use string concatenation like here. So this is what you're saying, right? Here in this,
Yeah.
in
Means
this
I was
particular,
asking, that is correct. Like having a wildcard star over there, but
okay.
means what's the issue if we give that dynamic thing, right? Is there
So
any issue? I'm just asking.
no, see, we again, so this is what you have exactly asked. We have added the URL and we added the dynamic value as well, right?
Mm.
Okay, now let's see with the attached browser activity. In this edit selector, okay, So where is this value? Where can we validate if this is correct or not, if it is correctly matching or not in the selector?
This will not come because currently the Internet Explorer will not have this thing, no?
Internet Explorer is already having this URL. Okay, so that is where we can add the values in flower braces. This is a new way of adding dynamic selectors now from UiPath. So instead of using this, what we can do is we can just add here. In here, we can just say that we can use dyn val. Now again, let's save it and let's see what edit selector will give. Okay, let's remap this particular item, edit selector, or indicate on screen. Let's see what exactly the value is. Okay, see here we have invoices as invoice 4. Okay, we are wasting time on this, but let's continue, quickly complete it fast and let's move on. So here, if we say that this particular URL, if we can go ahead and if we can directly add it here, or if we can directly map it here, or if we can directly add the URL here, transaction item URL, we can validate and we can see that particular window. It's just saying that whatever we are dynamically adding, we are able to map it properly. Okay.
Understood.
Okay, let's go further. Let's remove this one which we are not using, and let's remove this one as well. So all we are doing is we are taking a transaction item, and first we will be adding the value here. But here again, we will have a problem with the ascend statement. So instead of doing that, what I can directly do is I can copy this particular item, edit selector. I can add the value here, which is this, and let's add a star. So anything after this particular URL will be matched. Simple thing. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and see what are the queue items here, and let's see what are the values that we got. So earlier we ran this workflow. Now all the items are in success state. Here in the details, it's in success state, and if you see the history, it fetched some 7 minutes ago. It's in status, in progress, and new. That's all it did, nothing else. So what exactly do we need to do? After navigating, we need to extract the data. That's what we need to do, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So do we need to see? Okay, let's see for one item. How can we do that? Then later I will use the existing code to use extract values. So what exactly can we do is create a new sequence here. I'm trying to create a new sequence. By the way, we'll have two different invoice types. So what is the validator? How can we check which item it is? One thing or one way to do it is check with this particular image element or image exists. Image exists where I'll be seeing this particular image. Okay, if I find this particular image, it means that okay, this belongs to AMT Corp, and if there is no image, we can directly say that this doesn't belong to AMT Corp. So this is a simple way how I can validate it. Let's go ahead and let's add RPA. In RPA, let's add a sequence, and RPA extract AMT. So what do we have here? Extract emit, create. So here again, we cannot use normal desk scraping or data scraping. So we need to go with image based automation. So here, if you go and check what we need some value like scrape screen. So this is what we require, which will give us the value. Okay, this is full text again. We need to go and check with the OCR so that we'll get the correct value. Let's retake this region. Okay. Okay, we have the value here. Next, we'll check one more item, which is the date. We have the value, but again, we should not use as full text, though we get it, sometimes will fail. So better to use OCR. And we need to extract name of the company. So this is where we have. See, one thing is we can directly, since we already navigated to a particular value, or since we already know which format are we extracting, we need not take this particular item. We can directly say, or we can directly configure that this is from Amit because we have the image, but we'll try to scrape the data. Okay, and what else do we need? We need the balance due, screen scraping again, whatever the due item that we have. Okay, so what else do we require in this particular use case other than this? Let's see with the example. Invoice number we got, date we got, company, total due. So that's all we require from this particular values. So if you see here again, this is the problem with full text. Let's go with OCR, refresh. Again, we have an issue. Let's increase the scale to 2 to make it bigger, and let's see. Still we have the issue, or let's make it to 3. Okay, we are getting the values, but the first value is dollar, which is not coming properly. So let's, for now, let's go ahead and save or extract the values. Let's see what will happen. Okay, so did you understand how we extracted the values? Or is there any?
Yes.
Okay, so in this instance, we already completed around 1 hour of our time. So what I can do is I already have 2 workflows where we can use them. So I'll just take them, copy the same thing which I have done for this particular case. I'm just adding up here, and let's remove this particular item. No, so let's refresh this. And I already added few variables to them and kept. So this is for Anian and this is for Amit. I will also add screenshots so that we can see the screenshots. Here we have screenshots. If you are moving the code, better to move the screenshots as well, so that when we open them in a different workflow or different project, the screenshots will close, or the screenshots can be seen. So let's see with Anian. So here we can see all the values. Okay, let's see with this, and if we are able to get the values in the arguments, we have this completely, and all I did was extracting the values using the same OCR method. I kept a breakpoint here. Let's extract the value and see. Debug. Okay, let's see if we have breakpoint. Okay, attached browser is coming with an issue. Let's go back and fix that first. Edit selector, invoices. Okay, let's add this as a star, validate. Okay, let's keep highlight elements, debug. Let's see what we have. Value, date, company, and since I kept a breakpoint, it stopped. Let's step into. Okay, let's see the value here as well. Step into. So if we see, all the values we have are company, invoice, all the values, and these are arguments now. Let's save them, continue, and stop. In the same way, we have Anian as well. All we have is arguments which we'll be sending out. So any doubts till now?
No.
Okay, let's skip a image exists. We have some question. No, Vajrang, thank you so much, Aman. Let's go with image exists, and in this image exists found. This is a Boolean value. Control K bool underscore anion. Okay, so this is what I'm going to add to check if this is with one particular type or a different particular type. I can use if directly here. If it is bool anion, I can directly use anion here, or if it is a different one, I can directly place in the values. Here all we have is 4 values. Here all we have is 4 arguments. Okay, whatever the use case is, we are going to get, or whatever the structure might be, we are going to get all these 4 values. Let's add the values, or let's create these arguments here. str invoice number, create the argument or variable, copy the variable. Okay, invoice date and company name. Okay, we created everything in these variables. Let's remove one of it, and let's change this to process so that it will be in a global scope. So what do we have? Number, due date, URL. I think we missed one. What is it? Did we miss anything? String invoice number we have. Total due date, invoice date.
Invoice date 2 times it is placed.
Okay, let's cut it and let's paste it. Okay, let's have invoice value. So this we can keep it here. And in the same way, we are extracting all the values in the same fashion. So we can directly use them. So all I'm doing here is, let's keep a message box. Okay, and we can write str company name plus str invoice date plus str. I'm not checking with the structuring. Let's see with the output first. Str company name. So every time a item is completed, we are going to get one particular value. So let's try with one more item. If it is 4, let's go with 1. Let's see if we get a different, or 2. I'm just trying to fetch some different structure so that I can 11 7. Okay, so this is anion. Let's go ahead and try to fetch these values from here. So let's check if this is coming properly or not. And first let's go ahead and see attached browser. Okay, let's go ahead and update this one as well. Validate. Okay, update. So one issue we are facing is with the double slash in the URL, which you can see here. How to correct that is, we need to go into the config, and if you can remove this particular slash here, only one slash will come and we can use it. And let's debug and see if you are getting the correct values from this particular structure. Debug. Okay. We got invoice, we got the company name. What else do we require? Okay, did it stop? Okay, it stopped. So total due is what we require at the end. Total due 1800. Okay, step into. So we got 1600. Okay, let's leave it for now. Let's continue. Since we are using OCR, we will not be 100% sure if you are going to get it properly or not, but we can do something else for that. But let's continue for now and let's run the file and let's see how things have changed up for us. Okay, we are extracting the values now. Navigated to URL. We are processing one item at a time. Okay, so here we will have an issue. What issue is it? Anyone can answer. with OCR? Go ahead.
First, it was looking for the image. I think in this invoice, there is no image.
Okay, one answer correct. We have other options as well, other answers as well. Go ahead and answer. So if the image is not there, then it should actually go into a different format and it should extract, right?
Yeah.
So it should, but it's failing. If you see it is failing, it's reopening all the browsers again and again. Why is it? Okay, the best answer for that is, see, when we automated or when we created the automation, we actually zoomed in, we made it to 100%. Okay, but when the URL is opened, it's not with 100%. So what is the best way we can make it into 100%?
Maximize window.
We can.
No, maximize window, it's already maximized.
Yeah, before running the process, we can set the resolution as.
Okay. See, all that's happening is when we open that in this format, it is it is already in 100%. If you see here, this is already in 100%, but it is not zoomed out. Okay, if you just click on the image, it will zoom in and we can get the values. Okay, so that was the issue. Okay, let's go ahead and
Yeah, suppose Vajrang, if it is already image is zoom on somewhere, if you are going to click it again, will that fail or we will get the?
So this is where OCR comes with a trick. So we cannot make it compatible to everything in OCR. Okay. So if the value is not coming properly, then all it does is it will go into exception and it will trigger an exception stating that this is an exception. Now let's go into our transaction items and let's see if there are any exceptions that are triggered. Failed. We don't have anything that is failed. Successful. Okay, we have everything successful. Abandoned. Nothing abandoned. So let's see again. So maybe what we can do is we can delete everything. Remove. Yes. Okay. We can remove everything default. We can go back to the RPA challenge queue. Okay. Refresh. Okay. Go to queues and RPA challenge. We have in progress 1, remaining 1, and we have this item. We can go to view all transactions and we can check with status new, and we can delete this so that new item is added for us. Okay, let's go ahead and run the flow or run the work. Opening URL. So we'll also see in next few minutes how to set a transaction success or how to set it a business rule exception, how to set it a system exception. Okay, see here there is an error again. What is the error now?
Page down.
Exactly. So what we can exactly do here is in this particular item, we are clicking on that particular image, but the problem is with the page down. So all we can do is send a hotkey. And in this send a hotkey, we can just add page down. Okay, page up, because if we do page down, it will be down, but if you do page up, it will be to the top. Okay, we need to do page up and we can check for the image. Let's go ahead and let's run the file. Okay, let's stop it because we need to run. Okay. So this is simple use case and we are taking close to 1 hour or 1.5 hours, not because this is adding up to REFramework. REFramework, if you add things to REFramework, though it takes time, we are again dealing with OCR. If our use case is only to extract the table and filter the table based on values and add them. If it is completed, then we can do complete program in 10 to 15 minutes. That's the max we will take. So it need to extract the value. Let's see. I think there is an exception that's being triggered. Okay, so as someone has said earlier, it is waiting for 30 seconds to match this particular image. So we don't need to wait for 30 seconds because the process will already be available and we already have an image here. So it's not necessary for us to wait for 30 seconds, which is a default timeout for this. So all we can do is we can change it to 2 seconds. Okay, and we'll wait for 2 seconds and we'll continue. And let's see what is the output error we got earlier. System exception scraped returned empty. And so again, okay, now here is what we have. System exception returned empty. Now when there is a system exception, this should go ahead and trigger a system exception here. Did it happen? Let's see with system exception. Failed. Okay, it did not. Progress. They all are in progress. Okay, let's see with retried. Is there anything that is retried? Yeah, all these are retried. So the initial retry is once, but let's see with the details how many times it retried. Okay, status, set status in progress, retry new, and edit. So every time it fails, it's setting it to new again and it's taking the value. Okay, we have this error. What is this error now? 2000. Wait for ready. Okay, this is not the correct way to do it. Let's keep wait for ready as complete. Okay. So did you understand why there is retry?
Yeah. If queue is failed, that particular transaction is failed, again it is retry.
Yes. So now let's see. Okay. So here we will have we have a lot of items added to the queue. So let's see how we can eliminate this particular way of adding queue every time, and let's see how we can continue. Here we have Union. Let's see if we are able to get it. Okay, every time it's opening a new browser. Okay, so this is failing multiple times. Let's stop the workflow. Okay, and let's see with the errors. What errors are we getting? So we are in process transaction. So the only thing that we are seeing is scrape returned empty text. One thing. So that is where we are failing, and this is in extract union. Let's go to extract union, and we have 3 messages. How many times will it retry? It will be based on the queue that we will create. For now, we kept only once, so it will retry only once. Let's go back to our flow and let's see with union. So where is it exactly failing? Remove or toggle breakpoint. So this is one thing that we can do. So if there is an error, either we can retry it multiple times, or okay, let's say instead of retrying a queue multiple times, is there a way we can retry it internally? Can anyone say?
Yeah, when we are creating the queue, there is a retry option, right?
Retry scope also we can.
Yes. So what exactly I'm trying to do is I'm adding everything into this particular retry scope. If it is failed, I'm just asking it to retry once more. So this is one more way. So what it exactly does is this retry scope, if anything fails in this particular action item, it will retry. So condition is again a different scenario where we can check for only particular exceptions. But here, the only thing that we are getting is empty values are scraped. So this is one of the way where we can do it. Retry interval is 0. It means that, okay, after one exception is raised, how much time should I wait to retry it again? I can keep it from 0 to any hours, but I'm not waiting for any time. I'm just waiting 0 seconds, and I'll write, or I will try for 3 more times. Okay, I'm just try to scrape the data for 3 more times, and let's see what exactly can also we do instead of doing this in get OCR activity. See here we have continue on error as true. If we can directly keep it as true, it will not fail. Okay, though it fails, it means that okay, even though there is no value, that's fine, give me the empty string. That's what we are saying. We have one message. Okay, that's okay. Thank you so much, guys. You are good in the chat as well. Let's go ahead in this. Okay, let's try for one. If Emmet also giving us some exceptions, let's add retry scope for this one. So do we need to add? Okay, since we added retry here, do we need to add true here on continue on error? If so, why do we need to add? If someone can answer. Why do we need to use continue on error true, or do we need to use it first?
Even though retry scope gives an error, since we give continue on error is true, then it will go ahead again and retry. Even there is an exception.
No. So continue on error, what it exactly says is if there is an exception, ignore that exception, and it will be as a normal flow. Okay, continue on error. If there is an error, just continue. That's it. Not do nothing. But if you keep that false and if there is an exception, then retry scope will come into picture and it will continue for 3 times. But if there is an exception here raised, but I suppress that exception directly here, then retry scope will not do anything. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's go with main and
what
let's
is
run
it?
the
Retry time we have given. Means how many times we are going to retry? 3 times.
Yes, 3 times in the retry scope and 0 times 0 seconds I'm waiting.
Okay.
Okay, and here one more thing that I can do is, since I already have more values, I can go into the main instead of adding the values. Let's go ahead directly into the values and check. What we can do is we can add a sequence. Okay, and add the values here. See, this is one more interesting topic. So let's say that I already have a value in queue. I don't want to add it again. So what exactly I can do is get queue items. I can use get queue items. In this get queue items, what I need to send is I need to send the queue name in Orchestrator in column config of what is the queue name which I'm using, config Orchestrator queue name. So dot toString. Okay, in this I'm checking for queue item states. No, I don't want all queue item states. I want only new items. Okay, and 2 filter items by maximum creation state. That's fine. And what is the output? So this is the queue items. Control K, queue items. Okay, any queue items that I can get from the queue. Now from here we will get some values. Now here I can write a if condition. In the if condition, what I can see is queue items dot count. If it is greater than 0, then I can directly say that don't fetch the values again and continue with whatever new items that I have. Did you understand this logic? What exactly I'm trying to do?
Yes, yes.
So first I'm going to into the queues first and I'm checking the new values. If there are new values, then don't do anything. Okay, what it does, if it is greater than 0, then okay, I should add it to this. If it is greater than 0, it will be then. So it will fail here. So it will be in else state. Okay, let's go ahead and run this now. Since we already have queue items with new state, we will not re-add them again, or we will not scrape the data again. We'll check with the existing values and we'll use. Okay, we navigated our, so this is how we can add the functionality. We started with 0, now we added much functionality into our use case. Okay. So here one thing I am observing is if there is an exception, it is directly failing. Okay, so how can we further proceed? But since this is system exception, we cannot target this like this. Okay, so what is the exception that we are getting again? See, retry scope scrape return empty text. Okay, so what's happening here is, okay, let's go into this particular union. So this is where we are having. So it retried for 3 times, but it failed. Let's give it as true here as well. So we are just trying to make sure that the program runs, nothing else. Okay, and every time it's opening the value, but if you observe, it's not closing the existing window. So what we can do in this workflow, in the framework, we have close all applications. Where close all applications will come, it will come at 2 places. One in end state, the second one in, okay, here we will have end process. In this end process, we will close all applications. The second place is in set transaction state. Go to try, open workflow. In this set transaction state, in the system exception, if you see retry current transaction, take a screenshot, closing all applications. In this closing, so this will be called twice if there is system exception and also once the program is completely done. So this is the 2 places that we are going to do. And here, let's add close application so that when there is an exception, let's close the tab. What it does is it's navigating or it's attaching the particular value and it's just closing that particular tab, nothing else. So let's run again. Okay, if there are any queue items, then it will not further proceed adding the values. It will go and fetch. This is Amit. Okay, so till now, whatever we have done is completely into unattended automation. Can we make it attended, or how exactly can we do it? Can anyone answer on this particular question? Can we make this attended? How do we do it?
Yeah, whenever some empty value is coming, so at the time we can put some input dialog or something. So
okay,
we can enter it there.
Excellent. We have the same answer from Om as well. Thank you so much, Om. I think I can minimize this so that the exception will not come. Let's wait. So how many of you here know about forms? UiPath dynamic forms? Okay. So since we are doing image scraping, better you talk rather than chat. Okay, I think we are still failing. Okay, let's make it attended now. Okay. Okay, so let's check with the output first. So every time there is an exception, scrape return an empty string, invoke sit Amit. Amit is giving empty strings now, and exceptions are triggered. Message box object not set to reference of an object. Okay. If there is an error, then we are having these values. Okay. So let's find this. Okay. Now come up with your ideas and say me how we can do this. So you said that empty we can just, you said that we use input box.
Yeah, we can put it in try catch also.
Okay, in try catch, what can we do?
So whenever an exception comes, like null reference exception, so at that time we can put input dialog box.
So do we need to keep 4? Let's say that we are extracting 4 items. Do we need to keep 4 try-catch values here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to. There is no other go, because every time we use the image automation, there is this particular value need to be extracted, no other go. Or else a simple way I can do it is using dynamic forms. Okay, so here all I can do, but again, if you use dynamic forms, then there will be an issue. Let's go ahead into this particular value, open workflow, and let's see with this particular items. Initially, let's add all the variables or all outer arguments to empty strings or empty values. Okay, assign multiple. Assign. Okay, we have some messages. Let's take those messages. Can you please explain what is a dynamic form? UiPath dynamic form, it's a way of input, but we are actually not using a single input. We are using a complete form to do it. But let's see how we can do that here. Okay, now I'm expecting that this schedule will be extended for 20 more minutes. If you are okay to continue, then let's continue, or else thank you for joining till now, but let's continue whoever are available for the next session. So everyone okay? Please raise your hands so that I can know how many are okay for next 20 minutes session. It will be completed. Let's say 2 members, 3 members, multiple assign. Let's go ahead for str company name. Okay, we have 4 members, str invoice name, and this is something that is complex we are creating. So that's the reason we need more time. And str total due. So what exactly we do here is we are adding all the values as empty values first, so that if the value is not added, it will not be null. It will be some empty value. That's it. Okay. So in the same way, let's add the same things in ANET as well. Okay, so we are using the same arguments with same names, so this will work for us. And if you see here, what exactly do we have? So instead of using retry scope now, what exactly I can do is I can cut this, or I can press Ctrl Z. I can remove this, and let's keep for each property, let's give it as true. So what we are saying, if there is an error, go ahead and give us empty value, but don't stop while we are working on it. So here we have this, and here we have this true, and here we have this true. Let's continue, and let's keep this one as well, and continue on error, true, continue on error. So what do we have? Continue on error, true. Okay, continue on error, true. So continue on error, true. So let's see what are we going to get. Since everything is continue on error true, the least we can get is we can get some value and some empty values in the message box. And let's run the file.
Just asking, we didn't assign it, no?
We didn't assign what?
Means if what we thought is if there is empty string coming, then in the catch section we will assign it, right?
Yeah. So instead of that, what I'm trying to do is, so after every extraction, I will open a form and I will show.
Okay.
Okay. So here is what we have. Let's assume that we will have an exception here. Of course, we will. But it's better if we can just make it more in a lesser time so that the exception comes faster. So where are we getting exception? Okay, so let's stop here. Okay, let's stop. What are we getting an error now? Because we kept everything as continue on error true, it should continue actually. So get OCR text value cannot be null. Image, RPA challenge, message box. Okay, where is this from? Extract sit amit. Okay, resource extract value cannot be null. Okay, so this is saying that, okay, map to particular extract amit. Let's go to extract amit. Okay, so what exactly is happening? If this is coming as null, Microsoft OCR is throwing an error, but we are unable to do it. Okay, let's debug the solution once and let's see where we are getting so that we can find it out. Debug the solution. Okay, it navigated. Okay, so what is it extracting now? Okay, it's unable to get the particular place. Okay, the best thing that we can do is, see, I understood the issue, why we are failing. When I configured this, I didn't use, okay, I did like this, but I didn't use page up. So that's the reason it's just moving it to a different place. So what exactly can we do here is, if it is anion, let's go back to anion, go to anion. Okay, let's see here, edit selector, highlight. Okay, but we are unable to highlight a particular region. Let's indicate a region, indicate on screen, which is this item. Okay, date. So this again will be a problem with image automation. Specifically, if we are not getting the image exactly as we want, then that's where we will fail. Invoice, edit selector or indicate on screen, anion, LCC, and let's go with total, indicate on screen. So this is where we are getting the total value. Okay, and let's save it and let's go to sit as well. But first check with anion and let's see if we are able to get the values. So let's debug or debug the flow completely. Get queue items executing. Okay, we already have queue items, so we are not going to get new items. Let's navigate. Okay. Okay, I think now we will fail again. Okay, we'll fail again. Let's remap properly this time. Stop. Okay, anion. Let's go with edit selector or indicate on screen. Okay, what do we have? We have, okay, so there is one more error that we just now encountered or we have seen. So did you know what the error is? Why did it go into anion? Even though we have sit amit. Can anyone say that? Let's target this particular item.
I think image is perfectly not looked at.
Correct. Image is not available. So that is one of the reason. And add to UI objects. Okay, selector is not compatible. Okay, let's go ahead and try again. Try again with a new. But here what we can exactly do is go to amit and let's map them properly. So sit amit we have. Let's indicate on screen. We have this value. Invoice. indicate on screen, date, indicate on screen again, damn it, God. So if again now fails, let's see with exception handling and let's close our session. And before that, we are trying to add forms, right? We'll also do that. Indicate on screen. All we need to do is, okay, we'll add a balance queue. Save it. Let's go to the main and debug. Let's see. We have messages in chat. Just a second. Let's complete this OCR and then we'll go with the chat. Okay. Okay. What I'm seeing is it is not fetching the image. That's the issue. Okay, what's this chat? Okay, no need to go. We'll record this session on YouTube. Thanks. Okay, this is already live in YouTube. So people who are watching in YouTube, they are already watching. But let's go ahead in this particular item and let's go into process. And see here, image automation value cannot be null. The only thing that's happening here is in the process, it is unable to fetch this item or it is unable to find this particular item. Let's indicate scope on the screen. Let's indicate the scope here. Okay, let's debug here, or what exactly do we need to debug? Config item and that's it. Okay, let's debug from main, continue. Okay, stop. Run. Okay. Let's hope that this works now. I think it's failing now. Even now it's failing. Let's see in the output. Okay, value cannot be null. Okay, let's go with the fallback in method. Okay, here we have a process. Now in this process, we are trying to extract some values. And if that fails, let's add a control T, which converts this into image. And in this catch, let's add a catch statement. So this is where we are going to add a dynamic form. Activities form. In this form, okay, we need to add the package. Let's add a package for that form. We have UiPath forms. Okay, official UiPath form activities. Let's add all the form activities now and save it. So what exactly we'll get here is a form. Let's continue. So any questions in the meanwhile? Okay, since I don't see any questions, let's continue with the exception. And in this exception, let's add a form activities in form. So anything with related to form or anything exception that's triggered, let's add values. Open form designer. So we are adding multiple values here. Add text field. So one text field will be for, okay, what are the different fields that we have in text fields? The data, example. So how many of you know about forms? You can answer or you can raise your hands. How many of you know about forms? Field key, invoice number. Okay. Okay, no. So Shravanti, this is like an input box, but in the input box we will be able to add only one item. But here in this form, it's like an input dialog again, with which can be configured by us, or we can actually create this form and take input from the user. Here all you can see is input invoice date, save, and add text field. See, all I'm doing is I'm adding all the values which need to be added by the user. So if there is an exception, we are asking the user to go ahead and give me the values, nothing else. Go total due, save, and add text field here and add a total due. So here we have all the values. So on submission of this value, we will be able to get all the values. So let's see in this. So what exactly I'm trying to do is, if I click on close, should I close this form or not? Yes, I'm submitting this as true. No need to understand this for now, but just understand that, okay, when there is an exception, this form will open for us to enter the values. And once we enter the values, if we click on submit, then this will be closed. Okay, let's keep everything as, so here in the form, we can mark everything as success or it's required. How to launch UiPath Form Designer from Sharan Raj. So save. Let's see. Here we added few packages. In that packages, we will have form activity, which is create form. If we just add it to here, we can click on Open Designer. So here from this is also like an workflow, and we will have in-out arguments. Input from user is a form title. And let's add a collection. So what are the values that we are getting out from the form that we need to add here? So here we have total due, which I'm adding here, but the T will be small, which is the out argument from the form. Total due, company name. Okay. Next, what else do we have? Invoice date. Invoice date and invoice number. So we are going from a unattended bot to an attended bot so that we can get everything correct. And here everything will be an out argument because we are getting the value from the form out. If we want to send the value into the form, then we can use in, but in the collection, we can also map the values. Like this will be str total due. This will be company, str company name. This will be str invoice date. This will be str invoice number. Save it. And let's see what are the variables that we have. So everything is generic now. Let's add everything to string. So we'll not have errors. String. Okay. Okay, what exceptions do we have from here? Import arguments. So out value is generic here. What exactly can be done? Okay, we can go into open workflow and we can change these values as string values. String, string, string. But the errors we are getting are from here. We will not get errors. Okay, can anyone say me how we can use generic here, but we can use strings over there?
.toString.
But the problem that we will have using .toString is, okay, okay, let's add generic value, which we cannot change over there. Add generic value. Here in the exception, we are getting the values which are strings. Okay, maybe we can change these two generic values. Assuming that we can do it, but if not, let's see how we can do that. Okay, so we changed it to a one particular item. Now all the exceptions got resolved. How to launch UiPath form designer, thank you. Okay, let's go. So from this particular value, what are we going to get? We are going to get all the values. Let's run this flow and check. Whenever there is an exception, we need to have this particular form open, and we should be able to add the values. Okay. I think it's failing with sit amit. That's where we are having an error. But we should have a exception, and after that exception, we should have a form open now. Let's wait for some time. Okay, since we use debug, we are not able to continue here. Let's stop this and let's run the flow. Or else while we using debug itself, we can continue an exception we can use so that the values will be, or the errors will be continued even if we have an exception. Okay, it's failing with sit amit, but let's see now. Are you still getting an error, or will the form pop up? Okay, so now the form popped up stating that, okay, there is an exception. Now as a user, you should go ahead and enter the values. So what I can do is I can check the values. I can just add the values. So this is not recommended every time, but if there is an exception and if we want to continue 2019, company name is sit amit, and let's go to corp. Sit amit corp, and total due is 17310.00. Let's submit it. Okay, now again we have an error. Can anyone say why there is an error now? No. So the error is with message box. Let's go with the process. See, this is where we failed. And what is the error we have? Let's stop. And let's save the output. Okay. Action parameter name cannot be empty. Exception, object reference not set to instance of an object. Process, object reference not set to instance of an object. Yes, we need to have some value here, but we didn't get the value. Let's keep a breakpoint before this and let's see. And let's debug this again. Okay. Stop. Debug flow. Okay. If we are able to fetch the values from the message box, let's stop the webinar for now. But I hope the exceptions that we will raise or that we will encounter and how to issue or resolve them is answered. So anyone have any questions on that? How are we changing the code and how are we thinking or how are we executing the code? Do you have any questions on that? No answer? Okay. No, Saranraj says no. Thank you so much, Saran. Okay, let's give as invoice. I am just giving some dummy data. Date. I don't want to waste time now. Company and due. submit. So when I submit, I should get these values. Let's see what values do we have in assign statement. Okay, we have all the values as null. We are unable to get any of the value, invoice number or total invoice date. Let's see why. Is it so? We should get the values ideally from here. Okay, what if we change or we use this? Okay, let's add it to string, 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 and here we'll add control A, control X, control K. Let's add G before it so we can recognize this as a string. Control X. And let's recognize this as a value from this particular item. And also let's check with the invoice date keys and let's see how we are getting those values. G. So let's see with a total due, company name, invoice date, invoice number. Let's add it to Notepad and let's check with the key names. Okay, invoice date and invoice number. Now we need to match this particular items with Open Form Designer. And let's see if the values or keys match. Field key, invoice number, which is invoice number. So this is correct. Invoice date, field key, and we have invoice date. So the keys should be matching. I think the keys are correct, but due to the generic name or generic variable type, it is unable to get the values for us. Let's go into key, total due, file name. Okay, we have all the values correct. Save. And let's check with the company name as well one last time. Company name, save, save, close. So what exactly can we do here in the form is after assigning or after getting the values, we can keep a assign statement here on the top, which we can get it from here. Copy, process. We'll keep it here and we will add the values to here. G company name. Okay, G company name dot toString. Okay, str. G invoice date. We have G invoice date. G invoice date. G invoice. Okay. Invoice date. And here G invoice number. And here we are assigning G total due. Str total due. Now here we should have some values. Let's keep a breakpoint here and check. And if we are wrong, this is only for try catch. So let's add, because the str company name should always be in the, these are already there in the global scope. So no need to change try catch values or these values scopes. Let's debug now. Okay. This failed again. We should have the form open. Yes, now let's give the numbers. This is the junk string I'm passing. I don't want to pass in the exact values. Let's see with the message box. Do we have in the message box? Okay, let's go with UiPath. Invoke set Amit. Okay, we have a breakpoint that we missed. So let's go into process. Let's go into focus. So this is where we have, and we have the total values here that we typed in. Let's check out. Okay, we have the values. Continue. Step into. Okay, so this is the value that manually I typed and we got. So if this is completed, then it should ideally go to success state. Set transaction status. Okay, it moved into success state and it's fetching the new value. Okay, this is, let's stop this for now. Okay, now I'm going to stop this webinar, but let's take some questions. On what exactly failed and how did we correct it so that we can close the webinar. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Vajrang, I have one question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Previously we have used retry scope, right? So
Correct.
at the time, yeah. So in condition, a lot of time I used element exist or image exist. Suppose, for example, if string is empty, so it will retry at that time also.
Can you please repeat the question once more? Sorry.
Yeah. In retry scope, there is some condition, right? So it will accept only one Boolean value. Retry
Yes,
scope.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So you have to pass like something element exist or image exist there.
Correct.
So suppose, for example, my thing is like my string is empty. I have to retry one more time. So
Okay.
suppose if I make it as an empty, I didn't pass anything in Boolean condition. So still it will work. Still it will retry if string is
So
empty.
if the Boolean is itself a false by default, when you're creating a variable, it will be by default false.
Okay.
Okay. So when we have something by default false, then obviously when it is true, it will come out of the loop. Since it is false, it will retry again.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, Vajrang, Shankar
Yes.
is here.
Yes, Shankar.
You said that if it is a lot of Internet Explorer has opened, some 10 to 15 instances opened, we have to pass the incident, I mean index 5.jpg, 6.jpg.
Correct.
In actually, it has opened that Internet Explorer 6 browser, 6 instance. I need to pass it over there. How can I skip remaining and I need to pass it over in 6 only?
Okay. So before I answer this question, I have sent a feedback form in the group chat. Please go ahead and fill it.
Yes.
And for your answer, let's say that we have this particular URL, and in this particular URL, let's open one more browser.
Okay.
And in this browser, let's open one more browser. Control V or Control New.
Control P.
Okay. So here we have 3 browsers with same index or same URL.
Yes.
Now we can target any browser. That's fine.
Okay.
But let's say if we have something like 6 in this, and here if we have 5 here. Okay, how we can target is we can target with the URL.
Okay.
Okay, if we go with the index, see, index of URL with 5 is only 1 now. Okay, index of 6 is 1. If we have multiple always IDX, but if we have the same URL multiple instances, then we will have index 1, index 2, and index 3.
Okay, simply we have to give the wildcard characters over there, right?
Yes, if we just give star, then it can match any one of the browser and it can continue further.
Okay. Other than this URL, if I have something else, I'm suppose a Facebook or Gmail or something, I have to pass it over in this RPA challenge. So do we need to give a particular URL over there?
So can you please repeat if you have what?
If I have some lot of URLs in Internet Explorer, something facebook.com, mail and LinkedIn something in RPA challenge is also there. I have to pass it in RPA challenge. Do we need to give the first line of that RPA challenge / up to indices?
Yes, because there should be some. Let's say we have 10. Let's say that we have 20 members in this meeting. Okay. Now I can send message to everyone, and I can send message to only one person.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you are targeting one URL, then you should identify whom you are sending a message to. Yeah. Okay. In the same way, when we have different URLs and when we are sending a message or when we are sending a click activity, we should properly identify and send it to only one particular browser. Because why will you send click activity to 10 different browsers? What will be the business case? Did I answer your question or still it's confused? See,
No.
one thing is when you have LinkedIn, when you have, okay, even here, when we have LinkedIn in this particular value, let's say that LinkedIn we have, okay, and also we'll have Facebook. Okay, now when we open, okay, here I stop the share, so let me share the screen again. Okay, start Zoom, share screen. Okay, we have Internet Explorer. So now when we have this particular three URLs,
yeah,
how can you decide which one do you need to pass? Okay, so that's where you can use the URLs to identify any particular URL that you need to target. So is your question like if we have multiple URLs, how we need to target, or is it anything else?
Yeah, same. If it is multiple URLs, we need to target the exact what we wanted to.
Exactly. Now see, when we are using indicate selector, this is the selector again. If you see here the HTML, either the title will have Facebook or you can directly check in with the URL. Now when you highlight or validate this one and highlight this, only Facebook will be opened, or Facebook you can automate only Facebook here.
Yes.
But if you want to target LinkedIn here, then you obviously need to change the URL, or you need to obviously change the selector that you are targeting for.
Yes.
See here, now URL is different for LinkedIn. Yes. Obviously, you need to write two different workflows to do two different automations.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
No. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Okay. Let's stop the share. Okay. So what are you willing to see in my next webinar? One thing I'll complete after this webinar is I'll complete this workflow, and I'll try to make it as live session. Maybe I'll not invite everyone, but that will be in YouTube live. So what exactly I will try to do is I will try to solve myself. How if there are any exceptions, I'll try to handle. You can check in my YouTube channel. But what are you expecting in my next YouTube session? Or a webinar?
I thought if we can have one detailed section on state machines, like we already familiar with the REFramework, but means having state machine altogether, like in REFramework, we have only two transactions, like move to this or destination or move to this destination.
So Abhinav, right? So Abhinav, we already have I already gave a state machine. Okay. Okay, there is a video, okay, on state machine, which I am sending you in the chat to everyone. Okay, could you please check it from, okay. So I have sent you a message, just go and check it.
Yeah.
So that video will be only on how to use state machine and what exactly is state machine. But since you have already attended 2 of my sessions, you will be able to easily understand it.
Okay.
Okay. But if we are really having some good member who wants this, then I will definitely take it. When I send a next registration, I will give it an option, open option to everyone to come up with the topics. Go ahead and give the topics that you want. Okay, any other questions? Thanks, Abhinav. Service, right?
Can we?
Yeah.
Yes. Can we have something on database connection with UiPath? Any session?
Okay. So we already have it. Okay. Database. Let me check. Okay. Okay. Use. Okay, Sarvesh. I think we already have that in my YouTube channel. You please go ahead and check it. Okay. There we will be using our Azure database and we will be sending the data into it.
Okay, I will check that.
But if we require that, then of course I will definitely take it. Okay, any other questions?
Hi, Vajrang.
And you are?
Shravanti. Yeah.
Shravanti.
Thank you for today's session.
Okay.
For me, I'm looking for a REFramework. Did you do already any sessions for beginners? Because today I understand, but it's a bit faster for me, and I couldn't be able to join on time. So
okay.
Few things I couldn't be able to understand. But if I watch the video with the beginners, I don't know whether you have done already or not.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, there is a playlist in my channel. Okay, where we have a complete playlist only on REFramework.
Okay.
Okay, in this, see, there is part 1. Okay, so again, Sharon, someone have asked state machine, right? So state machine, we have, first you watch the state machine and you can also watch part 1 video. Okay, there it will be like a blackboard explanation where I'll be doing on a board. Okay, so this you can use it. So if you want to completely learn REFramework, if you just watch part 1, part 2, then you will be able to understand. But if you are going back with data table, how to convert something into data table, you can watch the complete video.
Okay.
Okay, so resources are already available. There are around 120 to 140 videos in my YouTube channel. Every concept has a video by now. Okay, just go ahead and watch it. And now why exactly I'm doing this webinars is, though we have it, we don't have something with business cases. Like if we have this particular business case, how we can integrate that. So that is the reason I'm particularly interested in doing this webinars.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for your efforts and time.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions?
Hi, Vajrang. This is Saran Raj.
Yeah, Sharan Raj.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether you already you are having this in your YouTube channel. It would be great if you are doing something related to virtual machine or Citrix.
We can do it, but again, virtual machine, we need to have something. Okay, so this is how I can do if it is virtual. We have it already. Let's see with OCR. I think I have something in OCR.
Is that possible for even SAP kind of operations?
SAP, okay, do you have anything? Okay, do you have any SAP client? If you have SAP client, then we can do a session.
Actually, we need for that username and password, right? For that
exactly. So that is the problem with SAP use cases and OCR use cases. Take SAP and OCR something like a image automation. So if you know image automation, you can do remote desktop automation. That's as simple as that.
Vajrang, from my side, we can't see SAP automation altogether. We can always treat it as a image automation or a VM automation, virtual machine automation. But if we can have a small overview of how the things are in SAP, like before going to any client interview as well, as we know that it is a licensed tool and we will not get the hands-on experience. But
see,
how
one thing I can say, if you are a fresher or if you are having 1 year of experience or to 1.5 year of experience, and it's completely fine because I am taking the interviews. I know how people get trained and come into the interviews. I completely understand when I'm taking the interview that you need not be completely aware of SAP automation. Okay, if you have developed something related to desktop automation, something related to UI automation, something related to web scraping, I don't see any issue in taking or hiring you because you don't have only knowledge in SAP automation. I don't see it as an issue. That's what I'm saying, because when I'm conducting interviews or when I'm talking to someone, if someone says that, okay, I have 3 years of experience, but they don't have SAP automation experience because they don't have the tool in their organization or with their client, that's fine for me. Okay, so if someone asks you what exactly when you go for an interview, what an interview will look or interviewer will look is, see, in this particular use case, I did not complete this particular scenario or it's not completely successful. Okay, but what exactly I will think or I will check in the interviewee is how he is thinking, if he is able to figure out if there is something is wrong, if he is able to figure out if there are any other ways to do it. Let's say that in the OCR I failed in every shot, but at the end I finally added some manual form to it so that it becomes success. So an interviewer sees if you can be able to, if you are able to do the things, he will not hire you for things that you cannot do. But if you have some client, if you have some client with SAP automation, if you have some client, then obviously we can do it. But stating that SAP automation is not different from anything more than a desktop automation, it's same.
But Vajrang, but some of the companies they are mentioning like we need SAP automation who has done the earlier. So this kind of, even in JD also they are mentioning the SAP kind of scripting. Even we know that how can we enable the scripting, these all basic things. Even some lot of YouTube also have said there was no any SAP solution for that.
No, see, SAP will have it only from YouTube. In YouTube or in UiPath, we'll have it only from UiPath channel because they will have their own SAP tool and they can give it. But if you are especially checking for SAP automation, then you will not get it because that's again licensed. And as a developer, I will not have a license. And even if I have it from my client, I cannot show it in public.
Okay, understood. Got it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, actually, this is Saranraj again. This is basic generic question.
Okay.
So I have around 8 years of experience. I earlier worked on some automation tools like Selenium, and now I'm learning UiPath. So after once I gain some confidence, I'm planning to take up some interviews. So I can't try as a fresher in UiPath. I need to showcase some experience, like at least 1 year or 2 years.
Okay.
So what you would suggest? So what should I do? What I can any other use cases I can learn and put some experience? What you're suggesting?
So Saranraj, answer me one question. Why did you come up from your testing automation background to RPA, other than just for moving to a different tool? What issues did you find in your current automation tools, and what you can achieve that using RPA? Something that you can achieve with RPA. Can you just answer me that question?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, if you take test automation, which is like limited. Whereas if you take ARPA, you can do all the process automation. Now, if you take, every company is doing the process automation, so it's going to be the future. If you take in a couple of years, after a couple of years, so this definitely this ARPA and data science is going to rule the market. So definitely upskilling is needed, right?
Sharon, you did not answer my question again. So what issues, be specific to the answer. Like, okay, in test automation, I am not able to do this, but using RPA, I am able to do this. Give me some in left and right answers.
Yeah.
Here I can do this and here I cannot do this.
Yeah, definitely I can tell you this. For example, you take the virtual machine automation, no?
Okay.
That one definitely we won't be able to do with some tool like Selenium.
Okay.
So whereas we can do with this ARPA, we can even now ARPA, UiPath introduced the test shoot as well. So,
Selenium can only do web automations, but
correct. That is
top and every automation from UiPath.
Okay.
Correct.
So do we have any scripts that we can do desktop automation using Selenium or any other tools except RPA?
Yeah, there are such tools like UFT is there and Tosca is there. We can do that, but the licensing cost is more comparatively.
What I feel, Vajrang, I have worked on Tosca as well and Selenium as well. So Tosca is licensed and UiPath is also licensed. UiPath is a much expensive license when it comes to Tosca. But what I feel is deployment and all those end-to-end connectivity with UiPath is much better. Like having the orchestrator, like cloud instance, covering all kind of automation when it comes to web automation, desktop automation, PDF automation, CP automation, these kinds of mobile automation, and now they are coming up with this their own test suite. So it's only full one package. Okay, so every aspect is covered with UiPath. That's why, and no coding required, less effort, more productivity.
Exactly. That's a great answers by everyone here. See, we have a complete playlist of that is released by UiPath directly for their test automation. Okay, product vision, product motivation, everything. Just go with this. But if you are saying, or if Sarandraj is asking, if I want to show that I have 1 year of experience in RPA, see, again, if you want to go into development background in RPA, it is again suggestible. I don't say no to it, but since you are already into testing automation, and if you can keep in your resume stating that I do have experience or I do have a certification from UiPath from RPA, then it will be a big add-on, and you can show this 8 years of experience and your certification to it. This will be continuous 8 years of experience for you, Sharon.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, why? Because let's say that you completely eliminate the testing experience behind, and if you just come into as a fresher, I think the effort that you kept for your 8 years is more than the effort that you will be keeping for next 1 or 2 months. Okay, because it's 8 years of effort which you have actually contributed or which you have taken for yourself. If you cannot just leave it as such aside and say that, okay, I'll be an RPA developer now.
Okay, got it.
Okay, the best thing that you can do is go with your testing and say that I did testing using RPA UiPath and do some 2 to 3 projects. That should be fine. Nothing else is required for an interview. If you are able to complete some quick use cases, like if the use case that we have completed today, or if we tried today is also a complex use case. Okay, it's not a simple use case where we just grab some data or place it. But if you are able to do at least 2 to 3 use cases and keep them in your resume, don't no need to keep only something that is related to your client in your resume. And make sure that is visible to everyone who are actually looking for test automation.
Okay, sure, definitely.
Okay, you can take my guidance after this call, and if you are building something using RPA test suite, since this is new, I too should learn for this. But if you learn and if you can complete it, and if you can make few demos, then people will be obviously impressed with your profile. That's for sure. All the best, Sharon.
Thank you, Vajrang.
Okay, any other questions, or else we can close this session?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, and you waited for 3 hours with me. Thank you so much, everyone, and bye-bye.
Thanks, Vajrang.
Thank you, Vajrang.
I appreciate
Thanks a lot.
time and explaining concept.
Yep.